Welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Opening Doors to New Funding Streams. This webinar is brought to you by CFED and NeighborWorks America and will highlight how housing and home ownership programs are being used as a platform for asset building. Specifically, we'll hear from two innovative organizations that have tapped new funding streams to expand the range of asset building programs they offer. My name is Rick Hoey and I'm the Director of Affordable Housing Initiatives at CFED. I'll be joined shortly by our panelists today and we'll make those introductions in a moment. First, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on both the CFED and the NeighborWorks America website. All webinar attendees except the speakers will be muted today to ensure sound quality. If you're experiencing any trouble with your dial-in audio, you can listen in through the speakers on your computer. Simply connect your speakers or a headset to your computer. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please contact webinars@cfed.org and we will attempt to get you fully connected. Finally, if you have a question you'd like to pose to the panelists, please type it in the questions box in your webinar control panel at any time during the webinar. We'll answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar, depending upon our time. So today's agenda will be as follows. First, we'll hear from Maggie Riley, Program Director with CASA of Oregon. Maggie was selected in 2010 as a CFED Innovative Idea Champion for the program she'll be speaking about today, which is called the Matched Education Savings Account. After Maggie, we'll hear from Chris Kremeyer, President and CEO of Beyond Housing, a NeighborWorks affiliate serving the St. Louis, Missouri area with affordable housing, homeownership, and other individual and community asset building programs. So with that overview, I'll hand over the mic to our first speaker, Maggie Riley with CASA of Oregon. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon to the folks around the country listening. I'm going to talk a little bit about this afternoon, our individual development account program and primarily the Match College Savings Program. We formally referred to that as the Match Education Savings Accounts College Initiative. So CASA of Oregon is a community development financial institution and community development corporation based in Sherwood, Oregon. We're a statewide nonprofit serving 26 of our 31 counties here. And a lot of what we do is act as an intermediary and support other nonprofits, housing authorities, and microenterprise development corporations in offering access to IDAs and other types of financial products for low-income households to support asset building and financial wealth creation. So one of the things that we looked at a couple years ago in branching out our IDA programs within the greater Oregon area was to look at existing resources and figure out ways that we could leverage existing resources with both our state and federal funds. As a lot of you may know, if you are an AFI grantee, which is the federal individual development account program, that requires a non-federal match. And during that time, both in 2007, you probably remember, housing prices were skyrocketing and a lot of our homeowners or potential homeowners were getting priced out of the housing market. The subsequent year, as you also remember, we experienced kind of a backlash to that, and a lot of folks who maybe could afford homes that were now priced lower were no longer able to access credit. So we really wanted to figure out a way to still provide lower income households with access to asset building opportunities and wealth creation. And we saw post-secondary education as an opportunity to really focus on and build on that trend towards asset building. So with that, we started the Match College Savings Program. Next slide, please. So as we started to work more with educational institutions, we found that there's a lot of mission alignment with one of the goals that we had, which of course is to create opportunity for individuals pursuing post-secondary education, still providing asset building opportunities, and serving lower to moderate income households. A lot of the independent or private colleges around the state really shared this goal, and we found a partner and ally with the Oregon Independent College Foundation, which is now the Oregon Alliance for Independent Colleges and Universities. This entity works with all of the independent colleges across the state of Oregon. We're also now working with their counterpart in Washington to leverage private funds used to support lower-income students in accessing post-secondary education, and really using those as a leverage point with our federal funds through the Assets for Independence Act and through our state IDA funds. This three-legged stool, if you will, was very appealing to a lot of our colleges and universities that we were working with. Again, they were seeing an increase of lower-income households going back to school or going back and doing a job training program, and really were strapped for resources wanting to serve all of those individuals. And so this partnership was really a way for us to align our missions and have a similar purpose moving forward. Next slide, please. Thanks. So with the Alliance, that includes 10 member colleges across Oregon, and with the Independent Colleges of Washington, that also includes their 10 independent member colleges. The goal really of this is to provide an opportunity for lower to moderate income students. So we're looking at students coming from 200 households with an income at 200% of poverty or below. And the goal really is to provide that access. And that was something that the private colleges also saw, the independent colleges also saw as value. And were able to, through their foundation, go to corporations primarily in the Northwest who were going to support these colleges and universities through scholarships anyway, but saw this point, again, of leveraging existing public resources with the corporate and foundation resources really as an opportunity to make their dollars go further. Some of the key points also with these partnerships is speaking the same language as not only the foundations, as you probably know, but also the corporations and post-secondary educational institutions. There were several months of planning and about a year worth of preliminary discussions to even make this happen. So this was a slower process, but we've now been able to, for the past 3 years, have a cohort of an average of 30 students enroll through these independent colleges and are able to access the Match College Savings Program through the member colleges. It's used both as an outreach tool and as a retention tool, so bringing lower income students into these colleges, and then for students who may have a gap in their financial aid to apply that and help them maintain their standing at school. One other piece that we found very attractive and appealing with this partnership was that students tend to graduate in 4 years at the independent colleges as opposed to an average of 5 years at our public colleges here in Oregon. That saves our families dollars, and that was really, again, a way for us to help leverage resources and save, in the long run, our families a lot of money. Next slide, please. So in talking with our partners at the different foundations that we work with, I kind of asked them, why was this attractive, and if others wanted to do this, what are some things that they need to consider in, looking at these kinds of partnerships and wanting to approach either independent colleges or foundations that are working with independent colleges. And they really replied with these 3 key points. One, it's the three-legged stool that we have. It's the existing nonprofit, corporate, and government resources that we can share and then have shared functions so that we're not duplicating efforts. That was probably the most attractive point that they recognized. We also have, as I said earlier, shared mission points, so addressing some of the issues that a lot of our low-income families face, and that colleges and universities are beginning to recognize and beginning to take part in that conversation. And that was something that where we saw a lot of mission alignment. And lastly, as you can see, it also reduces the indebtedness of students and ultimately default rates on student loans. So it's a win-win for colleges and universities who want to have student loans of any kind repaid. It also reduces indebtedness, which, of course, supports not only lower-income families, but also colleges and universities in attracting more students. So they now are able to say, hey, if you come to our school, we'll provide you with up to approximately $10,000 through the savings scholarship through our financial aid department. And so it really has been, throughout the past several years, these 3 areas that we've been able to come back to as an area of strength within the region and an opportunity for us to leverage existing resources, work together, and cooperate instead of compete with a shared goal. So I'll pass it back to Rick. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Maggie. I'd like to remind listeners, especially those who just joined us, that if you have a question you'd like to pose to the panelists, please do so by typing your question into the question box in the control panel. So next up, our next speaker is Chris Kremeyer with Beyond Housing in St. Louis, and we're going to hand off control to Chris for a really amazing presentation using Prezi. So bear with us if there's any lag on your end with regard to the presentation. Chris, it's all yours, and we're good on time, so you can go ahead with your presentation. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rick. Glad to be here, and I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground here as quick as I can. Some of this stuff, depending upon those who are on the webinar, could be a little rudimentary, but I promise to go through as quick as I can and kind of talk about the key topic here, which is how to leverage other resources and how housing organizations can do other stuff. So Beyond Housing, a 35-year-old not-for-profit in St. Louis, our mission is to strengthen neighborhoods one family at a time. Here's our vision. We create communities where hope and opportunity make tomorrow better than today. We do that in a two-part mission delivery system, regional programming and place-based strategy. So here's a quick snapshot of the organization and kind of the scope and scale of everything, what we do, from budget size to our assets to number of employees. We're a proud member of the NeighborWorks America network, and also proud to say we have the highest ranking in the network of being an exemplary organization, and we work hard to keep that. Like a lot of us in this field, we do a lot of multiple structures, so we have 6 wholly owned subsidiaries that we operate, and we're the general partner in 10 limited partnerships, and you can see we've been recognized by a variety of different folks for the work that we do. So on a regional basis, here's some of the things that we do. We're the St. Louis region's leading provider of housing with supportive services, as well as helping to create and retain homeowners. We do that a variety of different ways. So from a housing standpoint, today we use homes as not only shelter, but more importantly, we use the home as a jumping off point for how do we help families achieve their long-term goals, whatever they may be. Today, our organization owns 343 single-family homes that we rent to low-income families. This picture here, you see a stretch of some new homes that were constructed about a year or so ago in one of the communities that we operate in. In addition to the single-family homes, we're right now, you see this, for us, an extremely large building that we're building. It's our first multifamily and our first senior building that is in one of our targeted communities, and we're, again, continue to branch out to provide as many different housing opportunities as we can for the many families that we serve. We manage and we maintain them. So obviously we have the 343 homes, the 42, and we have more coming. It's an interesting mission delivery system, but it works for us. And again, our model, we know, is one of the largest, certainly in St. Louis region, and certainly unique across the country in terms of managing this type of portfolio. Not a simple or easy task to do, but with the foreclosure challenges, we've had lots of folks from across the country reach out to us and ask for our guidance in terms of how do we do this and can we replicate it. We provide a variety of services for the families living in our homes. Again, we're looking at the heads of the household, typically a single female head of household, talk to her about her goals, and also work with the children, try to provide a variety of services for that head of household and for that child. Whether it's employment, entrepreneurship opportunities, again, we try to be flexible in terms of how we work with families and what their aspirations and what their dreams are. Our goal is certainly to provide a stable living environment and then the associated service delivery for each one of those families. But our longitudinal goal is they're going to move out of our homes. That's a little different than most landlords who want to keep tenants as long as they can for stability and revenue. But our goal is to help that family move on to something bigger and better. We also run a home ownership center. We believe in catching the dream and keeping the green. Certainly all the reports we get today around interest rates being low, affordability being great, if you feel good about your job, now is a great time to buy. So again, like many others across the country, we provide education advisement services for folks who are interested in getting their part of the American Dream and do that using the neighbor work model, which we think is some of the best curriculum in the country. Again, we're providing education and talking to folks about what it's like to become a homeowner. We also are Missouri's only provider of online home buyer education. So we're seeing about literally one client a day using our online services, and we've just developed a partnership with an organization out of Kansas City on the west side of the state to help them with their home buying process and using the online services and then using Skype for our one-on-one counseling. Again, we do the one-on-one counseling, seeing where you're at, what your situation is, how do we get you positioned for long-term success, looking at your budget, looking at your credit, and making sure that you're ready. If you're ready, then there's a defined process that we go through, and we work with realtors and lenders to make sure everything's ready, and we can get you positioned for that biggest asset that you're going to purchase, that home of yours. We work in several jurisdictions here in the St. Louis region, providing down payment assistance that ranges in dollar amount depending upon where the locality is, and again provide all the documentation, go to closing, make sure the new homeowner is comfortable with that big stack of papers that gets slid across the table during closing, and then voila, you have your new home. We're excited about that in terms of the scope and scale of what we do. So we'll see over 1,000 families who come through our doors interested in becoming a homeowner. We'll help over 200 of them with down payment and closing cost assistance. Again, this idea of building assets and building wealth, we think certainly the homeownership vehicle is indeed the best vehicle for do that. If you're not ready short term, and certainly we've seen the credit world change over time, then again, we look at a variety of other different tools to try to position that family for that dream of homeownership. If it's not today, how can we help you get there, and what are some things that we can do as an organization to provide you with the resources and the connectivity. We've been doing match savings IDA accounts for a lot of years here in St. Louis, and the idea of match savings really came from the St. Louis region. Dr. Michael Sheridan from the Washington University Center for Social Development has been a friend of ours here in town, has helped us. So we received funding from the United Way, St. Louis Asset Building Collaborative. They looked at this idea and saw the work that Dr. Sheridan did and said, well, how can we be a part of that? How can we take this notion of asset building and really take it to some level of scale? And I think having the United Way in your region, I think, is a great place to look for funding relative to a wealth building opportunity. So you see here in our program that we've been a partner in for over 10 years now. There are the eligible uses from buying a home to home repair to post-secondary education, small business creation or expansion, or to buy a vehicle. We've been able to do that, and again, a slightly different process there. But to open an IDA account with us, obviously, you have to come through the orientation, and you have to understand what the program deliverables are and what the expectations are. We have a 2-to-1 match for folks of a certain income guideline, and then we also have a 1-to-1 match for families at 80% of the area median income. Again, the idea here is to say what type of asset are you interested in? What type of class would be appropriate for you? There are some generalized classes on credit and savings, but there's also some very specific things relative to your account and what your account will look like. Since we've started, we've helped individuals save almost $1 million to reach their goals, which we are extremely proud of, and really have taken those resources from the United Way and from some other funders, and these are the categories where we've been able to help folks, from 114 kids going to college to 105 folks repairing their homes to 67 home purchases using the IDA program, starting 36 businesses and helping 20 folks buy their cars. And again, as you see, the savers in terms of what they've been able to save and how we've been able to support them, we think is pretty significant. And again, the United Way viewed this as a great way to, again, provide leverage and assets to really position families for long-term success. And again, I would urge folks to think about their United Ways in their local regions. We also do foreclosure prevention work. How do we keep people in their homes? We're working with several other organizations, the Urban League and Catholic Charities, here to provide as comprehensive array of foreclosure counseling delivery as we can. Over 500 families last year through some great support from NeighborWorks America. We're going to help about 850 folks this year. Again, the foreclosure problem is alive and well, and we're doing everything we can to keep people in their homes. We've helped over 3,500 people since 2007. We know that it's coming to a downside, but still a big problem. Beyond Housing believes, as does folks at NeighborWorks America, is that home matters, that where a family is raised and where a neighborhood is located has great value and great importance in the life of that family and what they think about and what they do. Let me go back to the recap of our services here one time real quick. There we go. So you can see we run a pretty big span of services, and one of the things from a how do you leverage additional funding, again, I would urge folks on the phone, is because of the span of what we do, we get a lot of attention here in St. Louis relative to our work, and we touch a lot of different delivery systems and touch a lot of lives in some unique and specific ways. So we know from how do you leverage other funding, one of the ways that that happens for us is by the span of what we do. Our place-based strategy, so everything I talked to up to date with our regional work, this is our place-based work. Again, like a lot of you on the phone across the country, pick a specific place, and for us, we believe that our work really consists of alleviating the consequences of poverty and try to transform entire communities. So we started working in one specific small inner-ring suburb here in St. Louis called the city of Pagedale in 2001, and the 2000 census of Pagedale when we started shows you a high rate of poverty, high rate of unemployment, average household income and housing value significantly below regional norms. We worked with community, did a very thorough community engagement process to create some key strategies that the community thought was important to make their home, their neighborhood, their community better, from stabilizing housing, help families identify and obtain educational employment services, build leadership capacity, and then promote economic development. Here's some of the work that has happened in Pagedale that led to our larger community building effort called 24-1, which I'll describe here in a minute. So you've seen we've touched a lot of the housing stock in Pagedale. There's only 1,500 homes total in Pagedale, and we've touched almost 25% of the entire housing stock. Opened up a family support center where we do after-school programming, summer camp, food pantry, computer labs, a lot of the things that, again, a lot of folks do across the country. A couple key data points. Crime fell over 25% from 2004 to 2008. It's kind of leveled off in the last 2 years. And then increased assessed residential values. Again, the idea of asset building and wealth, using your home as that asset vehicle. Those values in the city of Pagedale rose over 52% from 2003 to 2009. Actually, we just updated it for 2010, and we saw another 4% increase. So again, property values in this small place that has a lot of poverty have been growing dramatically and far significant than any other communities in the St. Louis region. We took that success in the city of Pagedale and then looked to expand it, and our geographic expansion area was the school district where the city of Pagedale was located. There are 24 small little cities in this school district, and we were of the belief that the strength of the family and the strength of a neighborhood had a critical bearing on public education success, even though there was not a lot of conversations about linking our traditional community development work that a lot of us do with public education. So you see on this particular grid here on the left-hand side, two things kind of came together that really prompted the creation of this comprehensive community building effort that's called 24-1. First, local municipal leaders, and again, these are 24 cities that have 24 mayors and elected officials. It's kind of the strange way we do politics here in St. Louis. They came together because they all saw the challenges that and the struggles that the foreclosure crisis was bringing to their communities. Certainly, communities of color and lower-income communities had a much higher per capita issue of foreclosures. And then the school district brought in a new superintendent when the school district lost its accreditation. So the Normandy School District today is provisionally accredited and is working extremely hard to get their full accreditation back. But certainly understanding the idea that if your school district loses its accreditation, that does great harm to property value, to tax base, to your ability to draw people here. And those that haven't left by this point in time are going to be looking to head out the door, and everyone saw that as a terrible negative in a whole lot of different ways. So folks came together to say, how do we work together, and how do we look at all the challenges that we were facing? And again, collaboration like that is not something that has historically been done here in the St. Louis marketplace. In my sense, in talking to others across the country, that this kind of community collaboration is indeed hard to come by. One of the key things I want to point out is that we were able to secure a 5-year, $3 million funding to hire staff to run this initiative. And again, on terms of part of strategies on how housing organizations can secure other funding in some different ways. We weren't by no means and still aren't an expert on all things that are important in community. What we saw and what we envisioned is there were a lot of challenges and somebody needed to step up to kind of lead the conversation, and we thought that we were the right folks to do that. Formed a steering committee led by residents, did the same community engagement process, spent a lot of time out in community in 2010 into 2011, completed our plan in May of 2011, and have begun work in a real and meaningful way in the 24-1 footprint, as we call it, 24 communities with one vision, and that vision is to create strong communities, engage families, and successful children. The delivery system of how this works is really around 11 impact areas. So you see around our this kind of hub and spoke visual here is the 11 things that came up over and over again in our almost year-long process of engaging the community in the discussion about what's important to them and how they're going to move forward. In the middle, you see our philosophy of how we work in community around this repetitive notion of ask, align, and act. Ask people in community what's important to them, what's needed and necessary, and how they're going to help make it happen. Align all the resources together and then act. We'll go through these specific areas. Healthy residents. Here's what we're doing on the healthy residents front. Today we've created a program called Passport to Health. It's free health and wellness activities. We have 125 participants working in that, where we're asking people around their diet, their exercise habits. We're getting their blood pressure readings, their glucose readings, their body mass index readings, and working with them on a plan to move forward. The woman pictured here on this particular slide is Olympic gold medalist, world record holder Jackie Joyner-Kersee, who's joining us and that has been very helpful in getting people out and feeling good about getting healthy. She was part of a big health festival that we held that brought lots of people out and did a great number of wonderful things. Another part about being healthy in community is access to fresh food. We were able to create a tax increment financing redevelopment plan, and Beyond Housing built and now owns a 16,000 square foot Save-A-Lot you see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen that opened up in July of 2011. Again, great prices, great produce. It is a anchor and a wonderful feel-good story in the community, but it's only feel-good to the extent of we keep building upon it. The picture on the right, that's me with this my little friend Diamond, and we were racing around the store when the store opened in a competition with the county executive and the mayor to see who could fill their basket with the right things at that point in time. A fun day and a fun event. The store is doing great. The sales from the first full quarter of opening to today are up over 20%. So again, a lot of great things occurring. Livable communities. In essence, what are all the things you need and necessary to make your community stronger? we did create the TIF district. We're building that big senior building that we looked at earlier, and that senior building is right across the parking lot from our grocery store. Again, building upon the excitement and the energy of the grocery store. And the bottom floor of the senior building will be a full-service bank, the first bank ever in the city of Pagedale. So again, building upon the assets of a community and then moving forward. We're also creating a transit-oriented development site not too far from the grocery store and the senior building, again, where we want to connect job centers in the region and produce some affordable housing and create some retail opportunities in our 24/1 footprint. Here's the community. See the pictures on the bottom. Those of us who have done this long enough regrettably have seen communities like this, and then we were able to secure funding, tax credit funding, again, for us, using multiple sources and getting, in this case, the Missouri Housing Development Commission to support us. You'll see homes that were placed, those dilapidated structures in the before picture. Right now we have more things coming. We are working on building 10 new homes using a community land trust model. So you see to the left there, brand new school just opened up this year, Barack Obama Elementary School. And then within one block of that, you'll see that we're building 10 new homes for home ownership. And then we're also just got approved recently to build 31 new homes using low-income housing tax credits again. We've also created a community land trust where we invested $600,000 in it at the end of 2011. And so far in 2012, we've put another $3 million in the land trust that is buying and rehabbing existing homes in this footprint as well. It is the largest land trust in St. Louis. I only mention that because there's probably only 3 land trusts in St. Louis, so it didn't take us long to become the biggest. On the residential front as well, we have $2 million in Federal Home Loan Bank funds to help do owner-occupied repair in 3 of the 24 communities. Again, driving dollars and driving resources. The Federal Home Loan Bank was supportive of our efforts because they saw the comprehensive nature of everything we were doing and wanted to, be part of that success. We're working with small businesses in the community. We're doing have held a business summit to talk about hiring needs and skill sets that employers were looking for. We want to ask employers what are the things that they need, what kind of tools they need to help their businesses grow, and we link the folks who live in our footprint with several other job readiness organizations in the St. Louis region. As we move to community engagement, you'll see, if I go back here real quick, a variety of different ways that we reached out to community, all the different vehicles, all the different ways that we brought people into our process. And we know this community engagement is going to be successful, not simply because we did it on the front side, but we will continue to do it throughout the course of this initiative to remind people about all the work that's going on, all the activities, to link them to the asset building work that we're doing. We've done billboard campaigns, as you see here, again, to keep communicating about the work and engaging folks who live in the footprint and asking folks in the greater St. Louis region to come join us in the work. We held a big community awareness day where we brought 17 of the 24 mayors of these 24 cities together, again, to have an excitement and enthusiasm around all the work we're doing, and did some door knockers on all 15,000 homes in the footprint. We literally covered the entire landscape with door knockers around some other community events that were happening. Community capacity building, again, this idea of building the capacity of leadership and sharing the word with everything that's going on. So today we have 20 ambassadors. In essence, they're our speakers bureau that go out into the community to talk about all the work that's happening and to ensure that we're spreading the word through churches and through community groups and through city halls to keep the excitement and the enthusiasm going. We work closely with the 24 mayors, and it's a bit of a challenge to work with all 24 of them, but we know that they are starting to see the success. So right now we've been working on street repair, trash removal, some common ordinances, really working on some things that will bear some fruit for them individually, but they've recognized that by working together that good things can happen and they can move their communities forward. Financial capability, certainly back to this idea of asset building and managing your money well. We participated recently in Money Smart Week, along with the FDIC and the Federal Reserve here in St. Louis. Week-long seminars on asset building, on a variety of other different topics around money management. How do you manage your money better? Again, we are thematically talking to folks in community about how do you manage your money and how do you move forward and how do you take care of the resources that you have. And I'll touch on the last section here, and that's successful children. There are four kind of pillars to our sense of again, how do we work with folks to make sure that their kids do well. Early childhood education obviously is a critical space that everyone believes and understands that they want to work in, and we are certainly a proponent of that. One of the things that we've said is we want to make sure that kids are ready for the first day of kindergarten, that they can access quality pre-K services, and that they can be positioned for long-term success. So what we've done is, again, we've marshaled resources from a private foundation and then asked the folks from United for Children, another St. Louis not-for-profit, to come join us. And today they're working with, it was 12 originally, but now they're working with 20 of the 32 licensed pre-K providers in the Normandy School District footprint, providing, again, core training and competency tools for the staff at these centers to ensure that the kids are prepared for the first day of kindergarten and that they are ready. We're creating an early childhood continuum where we look at those last 3 trimesters of pregnancy through birth all the way through kindergarten. And again, we're trying to say to everyone, we need to have one common goal, this idea of collective impact, which is certainly one of the new buzzwords in our world, right? So how do we get collective impact, and how do we have everyone say our one collective goal is to ensure that 100% of the kids are ready the first day of kindergarten. We're also looking to expand the availability of after-school and summer enrichment activities to ensure that kids have something positive to do and that we're building on their assets and on their tools. Beyond Housing directly operates the Pagedale Family Support Center, where we do a variety of things from a state licensed after-school program to state licensed summer camp to some art programming. Parental engagement. Again, how do we get more parents engaged and involved, recognizing without their participation, without their significant role in their child's educational and social life, that the children are going to struggle. So again, we're providing a whole host of resources to try to make that happen, including, again, we've leveraged other resources from a local foundation to hire 8 parent liaisons that work in 8 different schools in the Normandy School District to link the parents to community resources and to make sure that they're not missing on, any resources that could be helpful in dealing with the crisis or helpful with moving their family forward. College and career success. Again, how do we make sure that through the high school years we're supporting children and making sure that they are indeed ready for a successful life. Recognizing these challenges, we've done a couple things. Beginning of this next school year, we're going to open up a $500 529 savings account for every child who enters kindergarten in the Normandy School District footprint. Again, we think a great way to be thinking about savings and be thinking about building assets and having those discussions about not if you're going to go to college, but where you're going to go to college. On the flip side of the educational space, we today at Normandy High School have 100 plus match savings accounts for high school students. The kids have already saved $65,000. We do a 2-to-1 match. We help the kids with ACT prep, with helping their parents filling out the dreaded FAFSA form. For those of us who have kids, we know that is no fun to do, and we want to make sure kids and their families don't leave anything on the table. We've been able to put together a variety of funding sources to make that Viking Advantage asset building program work, from AFIA, which Maggie mentioned, to our local United Way, who's supported not only youth IDAs but those adult IDAs I referred to earlier. We have a family foundation that's been truly supportive, and then one of our local corporate partners here in town, Emerson Electric, has provided support with over $100,000 to make it work. Again, trying to look at system building along the way. So let me leave you with this last couple things, though. Got recognized by the White House. Yay. Didn't come with a check, but hopefully we can monetize that recognition. Again, the belief is that we're on the right track and doing some interesting things. Here you see a quick snapshot of some of the efforts and some of the things that we've put together. I know we're going to have questions here in a minute, but the one thing I would say, we've been able to leverage other resources that I indicated in the presentation, partly because we have consciously decided to be part of something much bigger than the work that we do directly. And then I would advocate to those on the webinar you don't have to take our role, which is leading, but I would urge folks to see if there's something like this happening in your region and try to figure out, can your organization become a part of it? Because right now we're getting a lot of attention. Now, does that mean we're going to be wildly successful? I don't know. But there's lots of people who are talking to us who historically have not talked to us, and we think there's some great funding opportunities and great opportunities to deliver this big, bold vision that we have for our community and the families that live there. Rick, I'll end there and be happy to respond to questions.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Chris. That was incredibly comprehensive and impressive. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions, and we'll get to those in a second. Just a reminder, feel free to continue to send questions into the question box in your control panel. We're going to unmute the speakers, and the first question is for Chris. You mentioned that you have a number of scattered sites. Do you have any advice for how you successfully manage that situation where you have sites throughout the area?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you need to build your systems in place. You have to have a defined strategy on the front side acquisition to hone in on your cost to make sure you start the process soundly. And then in terms of management, it is a challenge on the front side when you're starting and you're small, because you're not going to drive enough revenue through your rental income to fully staff it. But again, think through both an asset delivery system where you're managing the asset, and then a development system that has some rigor to it to make sure you're bringing that unit online. I'm happy, Rick, if you share my contact information. That's a detailed question, but we've been working with other folks across the country. We're happy to share, our process and our documents with others if they're interested.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. We'll see how we can distribute any information that you have. Next question is for Maggie. Can you explain the involvement of corporations in your match savings model?
Sure, of course. So we don't have a direct relationship with the corporations. It's something that our partner educational institutions and their foundations have. The corporations that we work with are mostly regional corporations and Northwest-based. Fortunately, we do have a number of larger corporations in the Northwest that have contributed to this that are national, like Costco, Nordstrom, some financial institutions that are based in either Washington or Oregon, and a number of other smaller businesses or smaller corporations that have made contributions. We also have a number of IT-related corporations that have made contributions, again, to this. The appeal that they really see, and I think this is largely a trend that most of us, at least in the nonprofit world, are experiencing, people really aren't giving money anymore just as unrestricted dollars. And so in making these kinds of contributions to a foundation, they're moving away from making just a regular donation that's unrestricted for student scholarships, and really want to see that tied to a goal of either their alma mater or the foundation itself, and also like seeing that tied to other resources. And so those two pieces have been particularly compelling in our work with the foundations, and then also their work with the different corporations that they've been able to connect with. Those are relationships that they have had over a number of years, and have been inaccessible, I would say, to a certain degree to nonprofits. But because they have so many different either corporations or folks who have benefited from their college or university, and maybe are either they have a board presence or are an alum of one of these colleges or universities, they also see that as an opportunity to give back. And so, you know, that the power of the alumni network has definitely brought in a lot of folks who are now either running or in charge of those decisions within a corporation, and that's helped to bring those contributions to us via the foundation.
Great, thanks, Maggie. This next one is for Chris. Chris, you mentioned a number of funding sources. Would you want to say a few words about any obstacles that you faced, and if there's any issues with regard to maybe blending philanthropic support and governmental support?
Yeah, I think again what we have recognized in the last several years is there's a lot of interest in these comprehensive community initiatives, and particularly once we really had public education be a big partner in the work, that from a regional perspective, lots of folks were interested, and we're starting to see again interest in other levels as well. Look, I think every funder has their own challenges, and certainly public sector dollars, as we all know, have their own uniqueness and challenges relative to the pain and suffering we go through to use public dollars, but we know we have to use them in part of our work. And again, the challenge is how do you marry up what you can do with federal dollars with, as Maggie described, the move toward more restricted funding and programmatic funding, and still be able to cover your overhead and the operations of everything else you do. And I think that will just be a continuing, ongoing challenge for us in this space. But again, I think if you keep banging away at it and keep telling your story, and again creating something that is bold and gets at some significant problems in your particular locale, I'm of the opinion that you can get people to support you. You can get people to get behind you because folks are looking for solutions and looking for answers, and if we can help provide them and show how effective and efficient our delivery systems are, then I think there's opportunities to raise funds.
Great, thanks. Here's another one for you, Chris. The residences that you're building, could you speak for a minute about green building standards or ADA accessibility for residents with disabilities?
Yeah, so in anything that we build new, 5% to 10% are ADA accessible. That's through our funding with the State Housing Development Commission. So of our 343 homes at this point, we probably have 10 to 15, if not maybe a little more, maybe 17 or 18 that are handicapped accessible. So those are part of our portfolio. And then in terms of green, we're not LEED Platinum Green, but we certainly try to work with the Enterprise Green Standards to make sure everything that we construct has some features that are beneficial for the residents and certainly good for our broader community. We were also able to secure some funding from NeighborWorks America several years ago to retrofit some of our older houses as well. We did the blower doors and looked at, again, how we can make those more energy efficient and, again, be wise about how we use the resources and the newer technologies that are available today.
Great, thanks a lot. Maggie, here's one for you. What are the income limits for participants in the IDA program? Are you there? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. We have two tiers of eligibility for our IDA program. Our state funds allow us to go up to 80% of area median income by state or county, depending on which is higher. We also, since we have funds from Assets for Independence, serve folks at 200% of poverty or below. For the purposes of our partnerships with the colleges and universities, we're targeting individuals who come from households who are eligible for the federal funds, of course, since that is part of the contribution. So that's 200% of poverty by household size. And we're also looking at folks who are eligible to receive EITC or TANF. So that's the general eligibility. That group tends to be Pell eligible. So if you're looking at federal benefits that and a way to screen for folks who may be eligible for a program, looking at students who are Pell eligible generally are part of that same pool that IDA programs serve.
Great, thanks. And this one could go to either of you. Are there strategies, do you have any strategies for finding funding sources in rural areas particularly, and you can decide amongst yourself who wants to take it?
I got nothing.
Sorry.
We work if anybody knows or has been to the Northwest, you have the I-5 corridor that runs down the western part of the state, and that's really where the major metropolitan areas are, Seattle and Portland being the only ones, really, and I guess the greater Tacoma area. The rest of those two states are largely rural, and so we have worked a lot with rural development, USDA, primarily through our housing development projects, but also are finding that organizations that are very community focused and also very community focused and have a large base of membership like Rotary or Kiwanis, Lions Clubs, those organizations that do draw in a lot more community members, more so in the rural communities where we work, are willing to contribute to whether it's volunteering or participating in some way with any of our partner agencies, and then also when it comes to funding either us or our partner organizations. The other strategy to think about in rural areas is, at least for us, we have a large agricultural community here in Oregon and also up in Washington. Depending on where you're located, you may have growers, farmers, processors, anybody who's working in the agricultural community who sees either IDAs or any kind of asset building strategy as a way to support their workforce. And so in communicating with either smaller employers or organizations that are tapping into, and again, depending on the industry, the workforce, and having them understand your work as a way to support their workforce, so you suddenly have a shared approach and partnership. And that's something that's been very powerful, again, for our housing programs and also for our asset building programs.
Great, thanks, Maggie. This is for Chris. Chris, could you provide some more detail on your car purchase program?
Yes, certainly. When we first talked about it, I think there were some eyebrows raised relative to, the depreciating value of a vehicle. But certainly the belief was that if transportation was a stumbling block for you to secure employment and get the income you needed to take care of your family, including save, we viewed that as, all right, well, that's something that's a positive. We were, again, very leery of the kind of cars that folks could buy with the resources they were available. So we put some mechanisms in place to ensure that the vehicle was being inspected by a reliable third party that could make the assessment, particularly on the engine and the transmission, some of those other key systems that we know break down frequently in lower value used cars. So we certainly tried to screen out all the challenges with the program. As you saw, we didn't have, I think we had 20 folks purchase cars, so it wasn't something that we really wanted to promote because we were just still fearful that it was fraught with challenges, but understood for some families it wasn't the most important thing they needed to ensure their ability to be able to save longitudinally. So we were willing to work with them, but we took a lot of due diligence on every car that we helped folks purchase, just because of all the pitfalls that happen in that used car space when you're not buying higher value vehicles.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks a lot, Chris. So I'm going to make that the last question. If you have any additional follow-up questions, you can email them to Lauren Stebbins at lstebbins@cfed.org. So thanks again to our panelists, Maggie and Chris, and thanks to NeighborWorks America for their ongoing support. Also thanks to Lauren Stebbins, Jimmy Kroll, and TJ Murphy at CFED for all of their work. As we stated earlier in the webinar, this webinar will be posted on the CFED and the NeighborWorks America website soon. So this concludes our webinar. Thanks to everyone for listening in, and have a great day.